Hello, and a very warm welcome to all of you, tuning in from all corners of the globe. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Before we embark on today's incredible journey through deep time, I want to take a genuine moment to send out my very best wishes to you and your family. In a world that never seems to stop, I truly hope you are taking a moment to breathe, to rest, and to take care of your health. It is the most valuable thing any of us has. So, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you wellness, strength, and happiness today and always. Now, prepare to have your mind gently blown, because we are about to explore a fact that puts the entire history of our planet into a breathtaking perspective. It's a simple statement, but its implications are staggering. Sharks, the magnificent rulers of our oceans, existed on this earth long before trees ever did. Let that sink in for a moment. The lineage of these sleek, powerful swimmers predates the very forests that carpet our continents. This isn't just a quirky piece of trivia, it's a profound window into the epic, multi-billion-year story of life on Earth, and it reveals just how ancient and resilient these incredible creatures truly are. To truly understand the weight of this fact, we need to step into a time machine and travel back to an Earth that would be almost completely unrecognizable to us. We have to go back to a period known as the Paleozoic era, specifically to a time called the Ordovician period. This was around 480 million years ago. The world was a very different place. The continents were merged into a giant supercontinent called Gondwana, located largely over the South Pole. The atmosphere had much less oxygen than it does today, and the land was completely barren. There was no soil, no grass, no moss, no flowers, and certainly no trees. Nothing grew on the land at all. It was a vast, rocky desertscape under a harsh sun. The only life, the only vibrant, thriving, complex life, was in the oceans. The seas were teeming with bizarre and ancient life forms, giant sea scorpions called eurypterids, nautiloids with shells as long as a car, trilobites scurrying along the seafloor, and early, primitive jawless fish that were little more than swimming mouths covered in bony armor. It was into this strange and alien world that the very first ancestors of sharks made their appearance. These weren't the great white sharks we picture today. The earliest shark ancestors were small, humble creatures. They likely evolved from a group of jawless fish, developing a revolutionary new feature, a jaw. This was one of the most significant evolutionary innovations in the history of life. Jaws allowed them to grasp and eat a much wider variety of food, opening up new ecological niches and setting them on a path to dominance. They also developed another critical evolutionary advantage, a skeleton made of cartilage. Now, cartilage is that flexible, tough material that gives shape to your ears and the tip of your nose. For sharks, a cartilaginous skeleton was a brilliant adaptation. It's lighter than bone, more flexible, and requires less energy to build and maintain, allowing for more efficient swimming. The fossil record from this incredibly ancient time is sparse, because cartilage doesn't fossilize nearly as well as bone. But we have found clues. Tiny fossilized scales and spines that tell us these pioneer fish were there, swimming in those primordial seas, evolving and adapting. The first indisputable shark-like fossils, from a genus called Doliitis, appear a bit later, around 400 million years ago, showing us a predator with a shark-like body plan and, crucially, those telltale shark teeth. Now, let's pause our shark story for a moment and check in on the land. For tens of millions of years after sharks first appeared in the oceans, the continents remained utterly lifeless. The first brave pioneers to leave the water were not plants, but probably simple microbes like cyanobacteria that formed crusts on rocks. Then, around 470 million years ago, the very first plants arrived on land. These were not trees. They weren't even bushes. They were most similar to modern liverworts. Tiny, low-lying, moss-like plants that hugged the ground, lacking any roots or vascular systems to transport water and nutrients. They lived in damp coastal areas and couldn't venture further inland. Over millions of years, these simple plants evolved into slightly more complex forms like mosses and hornworts. The landscape was essentially a green carpet, no higher than your ankle. This was the state of the land for a very, very long time. Life on land was a slow, quiet, low-growing affair, while the oceans were a dynamic, explosive theater of evolution, with early sharks continuing to diversify. The real evolutionary arms race was happening underwater. Through the Silurian period and into the Devonian period, often called the Age of Fishes, sharks were refining their designs. They became more efficient swimmers, better predators. Meanwhile, on land, plants were making their own slow but steady progress. They developed a revolutionary structure, vascular tissue. This is a system of internal tubes, like tiny pipes, that allows water and nutrients to be transported from the roots up to the top of the plant. This invention allowed plants to grow taller than ever before. They could now send roots deep into the rock to extract water and minerals, and send shoots high into the air to capture more sunlight. The first plants to truly capitalize on this were the ferns and horsetails. Some of these grew into small trees, forming the first ancient forests. But these were still not true trees as we know them. They reproduced with spores, not seeds, and they didn't have the robust wood that defines a tree. The first true trees, the ancestors of the pines, oaks, and maples we know today, belonged to a group called the gymnosperms. They developed a game-changing molecule, lignin. Lignin is an incredibly tough, complex polymer that acts as a natural plastic. It gets deposited in the cell walls of plants, making them rigid and incredibly strong. It is the fundamental ingredient for wood. With the power of lignin, plants could now build strong, woody trunks that could support immense weight, allowing them to grow taller and taller in the fierce competition for sunlight. The first fossil evidence of these true, woody trees comes from the Middle Devonian period, around 385 million years ago. A famous fossil site in Gilboa, New York, shows us forests of Archaeopteris, a tree that had a tall, woody trunk and fern-like leaves. This was it. The first true forests on planet Earth. They transformed the planet, creating new ecosystems, altering the soil, and changing the very composition of the atmosphere by pumping out vast amounts of oxygen. Now let's return to the sharks. By the time those first clumsy forests of Archaeopteris were taking root on land, sharks had already been swimming in the world's oceans for over 100 million years. They had already been through several mass extinction events. They had already evolved into a wide array of forms. They were ancient, successful, and well-established masters of the marine world long before the first tree ever stretched its woody branches towards the sun. This timeline is what makes the fact so astounding. Sharks predate trees. They predate the dinosaurs by a colossal margin. They were so successful, so perfectly adapted to their environment, that their basic body plan has remained largely unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. They are a testament to evolutionary perfection. A modern shark swimming in the ocean today is a living fossil, a direct descendant of an ancient lineage that has witnessed the entire history of complex life on Earth. They saw the first plants creep onto land. They saw the rise and fall of the dinosaurs. They saw the continents break apart and drift to their current positions. And they are still here today, a reminder of the deep, deep past that is all around us and indeed, within us. Their history is our history, the story of a resilient and endlessly fascinating planet. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. Take care, be well, and I'll see you in the next video.